Good morning. We were discussing Alfred Tennyson's famous poem Ulysses. One of the major themes of this poem, we can say, is mortality and aging. From the poem's beginning, Ulysses, we see that very unhappily he confronts his old age and impending death. He responds not by settling down to rest, but by striving to relive his adventurous younger days. While he admits that age has weakened him, he resolves to use whatever is left of his youthful heroism as he sets out on one last journey. For Ulysses, the honorable response to time and mortality is not to calmly accept old age and death, but rather to resist them, to wring every last drop of knowledge and adventure out of life, even if doing so may result in dying sooner. Now, here we see Ulysses begins by reflecting discontentedly on the fact that he is now an old man stuck ruling at home rather than traveling the world. Ulysses finds no joy in being king. It, as he says, little profits him. Rather than finding meaning in serving his people, he merely feels idle. He is also less than happy to be growing old. He speaks of his wife dismissively as aged, and if he dislikes her growing older, he probably dislikes growing older himself. Finally, we see that he is discontented because, as he says, he cannot rest from travel. Rather than embracing his duties as king, essentially putting away his youthful ambitions, he wishes he was still exploring the world as he did when he was a young man. For Ulysses, settling down isn't restful and restorative, but rather an unwelcome reminder of his impending death or mortality. Now, common wisdom would suggest that the aging Ulysses takes it easy in order to prolong his life, but this is not what he wants. Ulysses declares that it is disgraceful to store and hoard himself, sitting safely in one place just to extend his life, in his words, or some 3 sons, S-U-N-S, sons. Such a dull life isn't worth living. Thus, although Ulysses' spirit is grey or aged, we see that he still wishes to travel and follow knowledge as far as possible. Then at the poem's end, Ulysses calls in on his former crewmates to join him on a final dangerous voyage to see the untraveled world. Here he admits that they are older and weaker, but also insists that the only noble response to time and mortality is to defy them both. Even if he must die, he will die with as much of his youthful heroism as he can. Ulysses acknowledges you and I are old, but insists that age does not mean the end of heroism. Old age hath yet his honor. And honor doesn't come from accepting a new way of life in old age. He argues that honor comes from doing all you can to recapture your youth. Now, these men, as he says, strove with gods when they were young. And Ulysses now wants to find some work of noble note that is similarly heroic. So likewise, although he acknowledges that much is taken from their abilities, Ulysses also emphasizes more that much abides. So he and his crew members have lost some of their strength, but their character is still the same. And he says, that which we are, we are. And that character is defined by their determination to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. So Ulysses is determined to remain the heroic figure that he was as a young man, even if on this voyage the gulfs may wash them down. Still, Ulysses implies it is better to die trying to reclaim one's youthful bravery than to accept old age and live an idle and sheltered life. So he refuses to yield not just to enemies on the battlefield, but to time and age itself.